Two racist cops wrongly accuse a black woman of being an armed robber, only to find out that she was a judge presiding over their case that same week. But by the end of this story, they would wish they had not wrongly accused her and had treated her fairly. But by then it was too late. To better understand this story, we have to go back to the very beginning. Welcome to Justice Stories. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. If you believe in treating people fairly no matter the color of their skin, hit that subscribe button right away. Only people who do not care for justice will not subscribe. Now let us begin. It was a bright afternoon in the heart of downtown. Cars weaved through traffic, pedestrians moved along the sidewalks, and the hum of city life filled the air. Outside a small cafe, Vanessa Mitchell stepped onto the pavement, a leather briefcase in hand. Dressed in a sharp navy blue suit and heels, she carried herself with quiet confidence as she made her way toward her car. Across the street, Officers Maroon and Philip sat in their cruiser, watching. Both men, white and in their late 30s, exchanged a glance. "She fits the description," Philip muttered. Maroon nodded, and without hesitation they stepped out. Vanessa had just reached her car when the sharp command cut through the air. "Ma'am, stop right there." She turned, her expression calm but questioning. "Is there a problem?" "You match the description of a robbery suspect we have been trailing," Philip stated, his gaze sweeping over her. Vanessa raised a brow, but remained composed. "That's a mistake. Here's my ID." She extended her license, but neither of them bothered to glance at it. "Ma'am, don't make this difficult," Maroon said, his voice laced with warning. Vanessa sighed. "I'm not. I'm simply telling you." Before she could finish, Philip grabbed her arm. "Turn around," he ordered. Confusion flashed across her face. "Wait a minute." Without another word, they shoved her against the car. A few pedestrians stopped, eyes widening. A phone appeared, its camera capturing the unfolding scene. The cuffs locked around her wrists with a metallic snap. Vanessa exhaled, steady but firm. "You don't know who I am." Maroon smirked. "Yeah, we'll see about that." With that, they pushed her toward the squad car, ignoring the murmurs from the growing crowd. Inside the station, the booking process moved quickly. Officers Maroon and Philip led Vanessa Mitchell through the routine without a second thought. They took her fingerprints, snapped her mugshot, and guided her to a holding cell. The cold metal bars clicked shut behind her. Other officers passed by, some glancing at her, but no one intervened. To them, it was just another arrest. Vanessa sat on the hard bench, her expression unreadable. She didn't argue or demand anything. She simply waited. Hours passed before Captain Reynolds, a tall man with graying hair, stepped into the booking area. He grabbed the case file and flipped it open. His eyes landed on the name. His face paled. "You idiots just arrested Judge Vanessa Mitchell." His voice was sharp, cutting through the room like a blade. Silence fell. Maroon and Philip stiffened. Philip swallowed hard. "What?" Reynolds threw the file onto the desk. "Judge Mitchell, as in the woman who presides over half the cases in this district." Maroon mouth opened, but no words came out. Philip turned toward the holding cells. We should get her out." They moved fast, fumbling with the keys. The door creaked open. Maroon stepped forward, his voice shaky. "Judge Mitchell, we're really sorry for the misunderstanding." Vanessa said nothing. She stood, adjusting her suit, and walked past them. Philip tried again. It was just protocol, you understand." Still, she didn't speak. She collected her belongings, her movements slow and deliberate. Then, she turned to them, her gaze steady. She didn't glare. She didn't scowl. She simply looked at them. Maroon shifted uncomfortably. Philip avoided her eyes. Without a single word, Vanessa Mitchell walked out of the station. "I put hours into researching and telling these stories for your viewing and educational pleasure. Just tap that little red button. It takes half a second, but means the world to me." Weeks passed, and the day of the misconduct hearing finally arrived. Officers Maroon and Philip walked into the courtroom, dressed in suits instead of uniforms. They looked relaxed, exchanging quiet words as they took their seats. In their minds, this was just a formality. A slap on the wrist, maybe a short suspension, but nothing serious. Other officers and legal staff filled the room. The air buzzed with quiet murmurs. The bailiff stepped forward, his voice loud and firm. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Vanessa Mitchell." The courtroom fell silent. Maroon and Philip froze. Slowly, they turned toward the bench. Their faces went pale as Vanessa Mitchell stepped up, wearing her black robe, then lifted her gaze to meet theirs. "We meet again." Her voice was steady, not angry, not mocking, just firm. Philip swallowed hard. Maroon, hands clenched into fists. Neither spoke. The reality hit them like a brick wall. This was no simple hearing. This wasn't a routine slap on the wrist. The woman they had humiliated, cuffed, and thrown into a cell now had full control over their fate. Vanessa took a deep breath and looked down at the papers in front of her. Her tone remained professional. "Let's begin." Maroon and Philip shifted in their seats, their confidence gone. For the first time in their careers, they were the ones being judged. The courtroom was silent as the hearing unfolded. A large screen flickered to life, displaying the body cam footage from that afternoon. The video showed everything: the aggressive approach, the dismissive attitude, the unnecessary force used to cuff Vanessa Mitchell. Gasps rippled through the audience as the footage played. Next came the witness statements. Several bystanders had recorded the arrest, and their accounts painted the same picture: two officers abusing their power. A lawyer read through Maroon and Philip's records, pointing out past complaints of racial profiling. Though none had led to serious punishment before, the pattern was clear. Maroon and Philip sat stiffly at their table, their lawyer scrambling to control the damage. "Your Honor, my clients were just following protocol," he argued. "They had a reasonable suspicion." Vanessa remained composed, her expression unreadable. "They had an ID in hand and still refused to verify it," she responded. "That isn't protocol. That's negligence." The lawyer stammered. "They didn't mean to." Vanessa held up a hand. "Intent is irrelevant. Actions have consequences." The defense had no real argument. The facts spoke for themselves. When it was time for the verdict, Vanessa remained impartial. She was not here for revenge. She was here for justice. "The court finds officers Maroon and Philip guilty of misconduct," she announced. "Their actions violated civil rights, abused their authority, and endangered public trust." She paused, glancing at them one last time. "They are hereby stripped of their badges and sentenced accordingly." Maroon's face darkened. Philip's jaw tensed. The weight of the ruling sank in. They weren't just losing their jobs. They were facing jail time. Their careers, reputations, and futures had been destroyed in a matter of minutes. Hours later, Vanessa sat alone in her chambers, a cup of tea in her hands. The city skyline stretched outside her window, bathed in the soft glow of streetlights. She wasn't angry. She wasn't satisfied, either. She was simply steady. This time, the system had worked. Maroon and Philip had been held accountable, but she knew better than to believe that justice always prevailed. For every case like hers, there were dozens, maybe hundreds, that ended differently. Cases where victims never got their day in court, where power protected the guilty. She took a slow sip of her tea, letting the warmth settle in her chest. Today was a victory, but the fight was far from over. If you believe in justice, equality, and the fight against police brutality, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Together, we can amplify these stories, demand change, and ensure that no more innocent lives are lost. Hit that subscribe button now, because not hitting it would mean you want to be silent. I will see you in my next story. The end.